with Pooh Shiesty. They was talking about with him and his attorney. Hit the like button, though. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't.
We covered the breaking news of rapper Pooh Shiesty getting arrested on allegations that he partook in a kidnapping and robbery of reportedly Gucci Mane and others at a studio in Texas. Well, we now have Pooh Shiesty's attorney, Bradford Cohen, right here on Sidebar. He's representing him in this new criminal case. I want to find...
When did it become like so cool for the attorneys to speak out about these open cases? Like, the internet has changed a lot of things. I didn't think it was cool for your attorney to talk about your case like you ain't got a case. That shit is crazy.
Out his responses to the government's claims, the government's purported evidence, and how his client is currently doing. Say we're involved in this alleged robbery and kidnapping of rapper Gucci Mane and others. But now we have the attorney for one of the suspects, rapper Pooh Shiesty. In fact, as the Department of Justice puts it in their release statement, to give you an idea about what we're talking about here, quote, 9 individuals, including well-known musical artists, were federally charged for kidnapping and robbing at gunpoint numerous victims at a music studio in Dallas, Texas, announced United States Attorney for the Northern District of Texas, Ryan Raybould. 8 of the 9 were arrested in Dallas, Texas, and Memphis, Tennessee, and the charged defendants include Lontrell Williams Jr., a.k.a. Pooh Shiesty, Lontrell Williams Sr., Rodney Wright Jr., a.k.a. Big 30, Kadarius Waters, Terrence Rogers, Demarion Gibson, DeMarcus Glover, Corday Johnson, Darian McDaniel. Oh, and you remember how I said 8 out of 9? Well, we have an update. The FBI's Atlanta office apparently confirmed to CBS News, this is per reporting from the St. Louis American, that the 9th suspect, Terrence Rogers, was arrested at an Atlanta home by the Violent Crime Squad. Okay, so I want to go piece by piece on this with Pooh Shiesty's attorney, renowned criminal defense lawyer to the stars, friend of the show, Bradford Cohen. Bradford, always good to see you. Thanks for taking the time.
Always good to be here. Always good to be here.
Now, first of all, for people who don't know, you previously represented Pooh Shiesty, and we're going to go through this more specifically, but just your general thoughts on this case when the news broke.
General thoughts are, I also like Gucci Mane a lot, the alleged victim in this case. I mean, I've worked with him a lot in the past. I worked with him on Pooh Shiesty's first case. I think he was the reason why I got involved in the first case. The whole thing is kind of really a shame because I think there's a lot that can be done with both Pooh and Gucci going forward. I thought they both were going to really make a lot of money and do really well because I think that there is just a lot there in terms of talent between the two of them. So I was disappointed to hear Gucci's side of the story, and I wanted to find out more when I first heard about it.
And we're going to go through that. We'll go through a little bit of the prior case because it affects this one. We'll talk about the nature of the relationship. But first, just the current status of your client, because I understand a judge ruled that he has to stay detained. He's in custody right now. Is that true?
Correct. So what happened was the government, after 3 or 4 months of this case and investigation, they never indicted. They actually filed a complaint, which is quite unusual on a high-profile case. Usually on a high-profile case where you're going to do a press release, put it out there, all this information and all these different things that are going on, you usually want to have an indictment in hand, but they had a complaint. A complaint is usually done where they think there's a rush to get it done. You don't see complaints where it's usually 4 months of investigation. So that was unusual. And now that the complaint has been filed and he's being held no bond, now they're now seeking to get an indictment.
Why do you think that is? Was it the idea?
I would never want my attorney to talk on a public stage like this with my life on the line. I would never agree to that. I really feel that that's like really unprofessional.
They were concerned the suspects would leave or something would get leaked. I mean, why would they rush to do that then?
I think it was, I don't know. I think that it wasn't smart. I just never seen it before. I've never seen in a high profile case getting a complaint instead of getting an indictment. If I was to guess, I think it was because the individuals that were involved were not cooperating with giving statements to the FBI. They gave statements that night to the Dallas Police Department. But since that night, They have not given statements to the FBI. So if I was to guess, I would say they didn't want to go in front of a grand jury without any victim statements, current victim statements, or current victim contact. And that was my guess at the time. And since then, Gucci came out with a song. So I don't know what the status of cooperating is.
I want to ask you that. So I clearly have a lot to ask you. Before we get into that, how is Pooh Shiesty doing? How's he doing?
He's holding up. It's like any defendant, right? You know, there's ups and downs in cases, and you know this. We've been kind of talking about different cases for a very long time, and we know there's going to be high points in cases, low points in cases. So everyone deals with those things differently. Pooh he's always have a positive attitude. I have a good conversation with him about the case, a good conversation about how we move forward from there. So he's staying positive, just like any defendant should. It doesn't do you any good to get depressed or get angry about things. It's like, you know, you got to stay focused on your case. I tell all my clients that. Stay focused on the case. Make sure you're ready for war, because that's basically what these cases are, and just prepare yourself for that.
And that's what I want to get into. I want to get into the case. I want to get into the alleged evidence that was put forward by the government and see your response to it. So according to this affidavit, I just want to set the stage here and try to understand the relationship, because according to it, the government, it claims that on January 10th, 2026, the alleged victims, who are only identified by initials and include RD, which we have to assume is Gucci Mane, real name Roderick Davis, that they were allegedly robbed and kidnapped at gunpoint at a music studio in Dallas, Texas. And there was apparently a scheduled meeting between RD and Pooh Shiesty, Lantrell Williams Jr. And apparently, Pooh Shiesty was reportedly signed to RD's record label, 1017 Records. They say this meeting was apparently about a contract dispute that Williams had wanted out. I throw it to you, Bradford. First, what can you tell us about that? What can you tell us about the nature of their relationship?
You know, I didn't have a lot to do with like how their relationship was or was not in business. I wasn't his musical lawyer or entertainment lawyer. I know that they did have a contract together because during his first case, Gucci was very involved in terms of what's going on. He was concerned for how things were going in the case and how the result was going to be at the end of the day and what the result was going to be. So I knew they had a contractual relationship. And I also do a lot of work for artists that are signed to Atlantic Records. And I know that both Pooh and Gucci are signed to Atlantic Records ultimately. So how it works is usually an artist is signed to a label, and then they create their own label that the head label actually owns a piece of, and then they go out and sign other individuals. It's kind of like a pyramid, except not illegal, but it's kind of like a pyramid where at the top of the pyramid is the, you know, Atlantic Records or Sony. And then below that is usually a really big artist like Gucci or Drake or someone like that. And then that artist usually gets their own label to sign other artists. And that's kind of the relationship that they had, is my understanding.
Is there going to be a denial from your client that there was even a meeting scheduled for that day? Because according to authorities, they say all these parties show up to this recording studio. I'll read directly. At approximately 3:43 p.m., Williams Jr., Williams Sr., Wright, Johnson, Waters, Rogers, Gibson, Glover, McDaniel entered the east side of the office building. They say, according to this affidavit, there are apparent stills from surveillance footage that allegedly documents this. And we'll get into this a little bit more, but the affidavit also says there are photos of the alleged suspects purportedly leaving the building and getting into these cars believed to be connected to them, traveling northbound after this incident. To me, if they have the footage or the supposed footage, is it just, I mean, the comings and goings, it's going to be hard, I imagine, hard to deny that there was some sort of meeting that day, right, at the studio.
So it just depends on what the evidence is going to produce. You know, like a defendant always has the right to remain silent. I always wait to see what the evidence is before I facilitate or think about a defense or what I have to hold the government to their burden, right?
Well, I mean, the defendant has the right to remain silent, but shouldn't the attorney be silent? You know, what is the attorney trying to explain anything for? I don't understand what would this benefit Pooh Shiesty at all. Like, him sitting on this YouTube channel and talking about anything referencing to Pooh Shiesty, I don't see what it'd benefit him. I really feel like it hurts his case, you know, straight up. I really feel like it hurts the case. And I think this is a bad practice, man. But what it looks like is these attorneys, they want to be noticed. Yeah, if you go to trial, yeah, you'll be noticed at the trial. But it's like they want to be noticed before the trial. They like, this is who I am and I'm an attorney. Come hire me. Because the case probably never going to go to trial, so they want to be noticed now. But I don't know when this shit started. Like, this is crazy.
So the government has the burden to prove the case. I don't have to prove anything.
Right.
The government always has that burden. So once we get all of the discovery, which we have not gotten, I've seen some still photos, and the still photos aren't great. There's no video from inside the actual studio itself. There's some cell phone data and things of that nature that puts certain individuals within 100-yard or 500-yard radius. I don't know what their label is yet, because again, we didn't get that discovery, but it should put those individuals in the area. And then these two vehicles that leave that area, one of the vehicles is associated with Lontrell's father, allegedly, and one of the other vehicles is associated with some other individuals that they're making claims against. So I won't know what the specific defense is until we see all the discovery.
Fair.
So yeah, sitting here with you, it could be they have a great picture of Pooh Shiesty walking inside the building and you can clearly see it's him, then it would be silly to say it's not. But if they don't have that kind of evidence, if they can't produce the kind of evidence that's needed to carry the burden, then that's something that needs to be explored. So I don't know yet.
Totally fair. So in other words, you're not confirming or denying whether or not he was at the studio or whether or not there was a contract dispute or what the nature of that day was about, right? So that's basically,
sure. And it would be irresponsible and stupid of me to say, hey, listen, we're not going to deny this. Start giving up things that I don't know whether or not they can prove or not prove.
And look, totally fair what you can and cannot say and what you want to say or not say. Totally fair. I'm just going to go through it with you. Before we go any further.
There's no secrets between us.
No secrets. No secrets.
You and I, there's no secrets.
It's like this. Which, by the way, before we go in more back into the government's claims, you mentioned this alleged diss track, right? So there were reports that Gucci Mane allegedly recorded this diss track against Pooh Shiesty. I believe it's called Crash Dummy. I'm going to read you some of the lyrics. Tell you the truth, you went out like a real crash dummy. And after all that, boy, you still signed to me. I walk in the room, you can feel the pressure building. Blank, dat me up there. Whole time they plotting against me. Thoughts on that? Client's thoughts on that?
What I was surprised at is what's not in the diss track. And what's not in the diss track is any mention of a gun, any mention of, allegedly a Draco, which was used, which is a shorter version of a long AK-47. No mention of those things. And let me tell you, there's a lot of words that rhyme with gun and Draco because they've been in every rap from here to Kingdom Come. When you have rappers that talk about, these so-called drill rappers that talk about shootings and things of that nature. So I was surprised that it didn't have more detail in terms of like guns were used or things of that nature. I never have an opinion on someone's record or song or diss track because I feel like an artist is going to say what an artist says, and that's from their point of view, and it's from what they feel occurred at any type of situation or something that didn't occur that they feel might sell records. So I don't know. So for me to say like, oh, I was worried about it, not worried about it, I just don't care. It shouldn't really come into play.
So you don't think it necessarily might be coming into evidence in any way?
No, I don't think it. The only time it would come into evidence is if Gucci Mane was to take the stand and say, I don't recall what happened that night. I was on medication or I was drinking and I was on medication. I'm not positive how everything went down or something of that nature. Then the prosecutor might be able to use that as some sort of impeachment. But other than that, it's not just coming in as evidence. If he doesn't, if he says he shows up and he goes, yeah, I remember it's got a little hazy, but I remember some things, then it's not coming in if he testifies the way the song plays out.
Let me go through the main allegations from this incident, and then we'll get a little bit more into this. So there is allegedly, according to the government, an argument, and they claim it ends up with Williams Jr., again, Pooh Shiesty, being accused of taking out a black AK-style pistol, pointing it at RD, presumably Gucci Mane, demanding he sign the contract release paperwork. RD allegedly complied, signed it, and then there is the claim that RD was not allowed to leave as he was held at gunpoint. So there's allegations that Wright also allegedly recorded RD signing the paperwork and being forced to say that he released Williams Jr. from the contract. And then afterwards, it's alleged that Williams Jr. took RD's wedding ring and watch and earrings and cash. It was.
And mind you, when the feds picked up Big 30, he tried to destroy his phone. And the feds got his phone, right? He thought that him breaking it was going to destroy the phone, not understanding that they have the technology to go into the phone and get all your data, your videos, and everything. So that is something that's going to take some time to process, but they're going to have that too. So if Big 30 recorded that and put it on his phone, which they're alleging right here, they're going to be able to get it. And that there is going to be like one of the most incriminating evidence that they'll have. And maybe on that phone, you know, because them young boys be doing a lot of goofy shit. They probably took pictures of them having the straps and everything. So we're going to see with that.
Alleged that other defendants took out guns too and demanded property from other alleged victims. There was an allegation that McDaniel threatened to shoot BP, that was choked to the point that he nearly passed out, and embedded in the complaint are what appear to be photos allegedly showing cuts or abrasions on MM's neck and wrist. And there's also a claim that his wallet and watches, a Louis Vuitton bag, headphones, they were stolen. And then I'm just going to read this part verbatim and then we'll get into it. Quote, RD was pushed onto the couch in the control room, causing the victims to believe they were going to be executed. Williams Jr. placed the barrel of a firearm to the back of BP's head and ordered him and RD to leave the control room and the studio through the west entrance of the office building. RD then instructed CW and TD to escort them to their vehicle. As the victims left, turned to Williams Jr. and asked him if they were really taking his watches. Based on later recovered surveillance video footage, the target suspects left the studio and the office building through the east entrance at approximately 4:48 p.m. So a bunch of questions here. Bradford, I'll first start with this. If this alleged recording of RD signing the contract against his will, what should we be thinking about that?
So far I haven't seen the recording, nor does anyone have a copy of the recording as of now. I don't know if there ever will be a copy of that
cops
recording.
Got the phone.
There has been no copy of the alleged contract that has been signed, nor has one been provided during the bond hearing. And they have actually said they don't know if one even exists. They suppose one exists. That's that part of it. Then the interesting part about, hey, am I really having my watches stolen? That's kind of a weird statement to be made between these individuals. And then what I think also is really important is the sloppiness of the complaint. At the beginning of the complaint, if you read, it says this robbery occurred at approximately 4:50 p.m. at this address. Then later on in the complaint, it says they all left at 4:48 p.m. at this address.
Man, these attorneys, they're playing with the client's life. Straight up. Because it's a game to the attorney. This man goes home to his family every night. He's not going to jail. So it's like Pooh, Shiesty the one to sit in jail, Big 30 the one in jail. These attorneys is playing games with their life so that they can get recognition and notoriety. And I really feel like I wouldn't want an attorney to be speaking about anything on my behalf or for me or anything on the case, and we haven't even got the discovery. Like, hold up. Like, how are you going to be trying to talk about the case and you don't even know what they have yet? That shit is crazy. You out here assuming.
Address. So even the sloppiness of the complaint is quite shocking when it comes to someone who's getting charged with a life felony. That's just one mistake that was made in that complaint. There's others that were made and contradictions that happened during that complaint that were very unusual. But there's also another part where they say that Pooh held this gun to somebody's head and said all these different things. And then there's another part of the complaint that says, actually, he told one guy, hey, put your gun down, don't shoot this guy or something like that. So there's a lot of contradicting statements that were made within the complaint, not to mention how sloppy the complaint was put together. And during the bond hearing, I think very smartly, they had the FBI agent that actually wrote that complaint. She's only been an FBI agent for 3 years. They had her in the courtroom, but they didn't want to put her on the stand to be cross-examined. They put another FBI agent who was like a 16-year FBI agent. They put her on the stand to testify as to what the other FBI agent wrote in her complaint. The whole thing was quite unusual. And like I said, it's weird that they would do this without an indictment and just a complaint, but I have my suspicions as to why.
Well, this goes back to something else you mentioned. It seems a lot of this is based on the witness accounts, right? Not of what happened or allegedly happened in that studio. And you mentioned something earlier I want to explore. You're saying these alleged victims told local law enforcement what happened or allegedly happened, but they didn't speak with the FBI. So 2 questions about that. One, based as far as you know, is what's listed in the government's claims, is that accurate from the reports that were filed by local PD? And 2, why wouldn't they speak to the FBI if that's true?
So the first part of that is I don't know, because the reports that I got from that evening from the Dallas PD are completely redacted, meaning it looks like, it's a sea of black that is on these reports. So the reports from that evening don't give me a lot of detail as to what exactly was said or who said it. That's the first portion. So I can't tell you whether or not it's accurate to the complaint. I can tell you the complaint is rather sloppy in terms of what each person said and where things took place. But putting that aside, that's the first part of that. Why wouldn't they talk to the FBI? It could be sometimes something happens and you feel some sort of way that night, and then time goes by and you start to consider my options and how this is going to go, and that I have to be at kind of the FBI's beck and call, subpoenaed to come to Dallas, Texas, subpoenaed on phone calls and different memorandums and different things that going forward. And, it's quite unusual. The hip hop rap world looks at snitching in different ways. And sometimes people say everything is snitching. There's one guy who's on, he's got a podcast. He thinks everything's snitching. If you plea, it's snitching. If you do this, it's snitching. So people are really divided as to these guys are real gangsters, but now on the other hand, they're snitching. And then other people are saying, well, the guy's a businessman now. He's not a street guy. And, that's just the way, you should do business a certain way. There's a lot going on here, a lot of dynamics. So I don't know why they haven't spoken to the FBI in 3 or 4 months. The FBI seems to think it was just a scheduling conflict, which I find extremely hard to believe.
You said that at the bond hearing?
Yeah, she said it. Yeah, we just couldn't get together in the past 4 months. There's 5 different witnesses.
Yeah, he definitely,
none of them could even get on Zoom. They couldn't give you anything. Nope, they just were too busy. So I just don't buy that. Now, whether or not going forward they're going to be cooperating and the level of cooperation, that I don't know. You know what I mean? And I don't depend on that on any case. I assume cases are going forward based on the evidence that was presented at a bond hearing. And I assume that they're telling me the truth, that, they're going to be cooperating. The FBI says they're going to be cooperating. So I can't take it as that they're lying to me. I prepare my case as if they're telling me the truth.
Right.
Whether or not at trial that ends up being the case, it's usually not.
So I want to now go into a specific piece of alleged evidence about your client that was part of this filing, and was purportedly used, to as support for the arrest. And so it says, the complaint claims that your client was wearing an ankle monitor because he was serving a sentence, like you mentioned, the prior case, these federal charges, I believe drug and weapons charges, and he was sentenced to home detention. He had to wear an electronic monitoring device. And they say that authorities were able to allegedly use the location data from that device to seemingly track his apparent movements near the crime scene. And I believe they say that the ankle monitor was used to track him and William Sr. to a Staples. And the allegation was there that they went to a Staples early in the day to print off that agreement, to print off the contractual release paperwork that they say they were forcing RD to later sign. And the feds also claim that the surveillance video and the GPS data, they put them there. So talk to me about the ankle monitor.
Sure. First, let me just address the Staples thing. I don't even care if they're at Staples. They're going to a recording studio, and normally my clients usually print off the lyrics for different individuals. If you have 5 individuals that are going to be on one record and they each have a section or a part, they'll usually print those things off. So I really didn't care about the Staples thing. The electronic monitor, again, people will tell me, oh, we have this data. This is the data that we have. And then when I get it, it's typically not what they represent. Now, I don't know. It could be exactly what they represent. And if it is, then we'll deal with it. Then, then we don't say a certain defense of, oh, well, he wasn't there or he was in the area or whatever it is. We have to create the defense and create a way to make sure that they're held to their burden, the government. So it doesn't matter what they say, it's matter what they have. So
but
yes,
was he wearing a monitor? Do you know?
Yes, he was wearing an electronic monitor.
This attorney is just talking too much. It's like you trying to make an explanation for why they went to Staples to print off the lyrics, and like by the attorney giving away what their defense is going to be of why they went to Staples is going to make sure that the prosecutors detail what they went to Staples for. And the print off the lyrics thing, they're going to find a way to debunk that. Like, I'm just saying, this attorney, this attorney is not the attorney you want to get. Like, why are you explaining your defense right now? This ain't the time to explain your defense. You explain your defense in the courtroom. You trying to look for the public opinion on what you saying. It ain't the time, my man. I'm just saying, I don't know what's going on with these attorneys, but they doing too much.
And if they have the data and the data is accurate, then we deal with that. But I don't know if that's the case. I had a murder case that I got dismissed that was in Tampa where they're like, hey, this phone, it puts him right at the scene at the time of the shooting. Then I get the data. It puts him within 350 yards of the scene, somewhere near the time of the shooting. So it's like, it's always some little twist on what they say and what I get. There's usually a difference. Now, I don't know if that's the case here. It might not be. So I have to see what the actual evidence is first, and then I'll deal with it.
Let's talk about the vehicle ID and cell phone record evidence. So the affidavit claims that Wright's father owns a 2020 Dodge Charger Hellcat with Tennessee plates, and authorities allegedly used license plate readers to track the Charger following another car, a Dodge Ram, at 2:18 p.m. on January 10th. Then they claim that the Dodge Ram looks like the one on surveillance video near the studio, near the crime scene later that afternoon. They apparently used the license plate readers to also link the Charger traveling close to a white Buick Enclave, and through rental records, they determined that that Enclave was rented by Williams Sr. And the cell phone records for Williams Jr., again, your client and others, and the telematics location data for the cars, as well as the GPS data from the electronic monitoring device, authorities claim they're tracking them the journey from Memphis, Tennessee to Dallas, Texas, that the electronic monitoring device allegedly aligns with the records, tracking to Winrose Tower, where Williams Jr. was allegedly residing, traveling to the alleged crime scene when they allegedly left the scene, going to the Comfort Inn at one point. And by the way, with the Comfort Inn, authorities allegedly have rental records from the rooms and surveillance footage allegedly showing them at this location, and that some of the defendants were wearing clothes that were very similar to what the suspects were allegedly wearing at the studio.
Listen to what they saying about all the technology that they have. And mind you, the bag that was stolen had an air tag in it. So the robbery of, one of the victims that admitted that his bag and his watches were stolen had an air tag in it. So when the air tag goes with the cars, everywhere the cars was tracked, the air tag is going to be pinging at the same time. So it's going to be a timestamp on the tracking of the car and the air tag. And if they're going together, what you think? They're going to present that. And I wonder how they're going to say something to that.
On the surveillance footage. So I know that's a lot, Bradford, but basically it's digital evidence, right? It's surveillance, it's rental records, it's cars, GPS. Talk to me about that.
So long story short is if all of that is true, the most that does is put everyone at the scene, right? It still doesn't say if a robbery occurred, doesn't say that a kidnapping occurred. In fact, the jurisdictional element of this is really troublesome because they don't put in the dates of that, the travel from Tennessee to Dallas. Now, kidnapping is very specific. You have to travel
federal
kidnapping. You have to travel in order to complete the crime that you are accused of. These guys were there for a week or a week and a half recording songs and doing all this stuff. So like the jurisdictional element,
but like, let's be honest, right? If these guys was there for a week or whatever recording, right? And they contacted Gucci the week before, and Gucci said, yeah, I can't get there till next week. They pre-planned it. If they contacted him ahead of time, he might not was able to jump and move right when they called. So you got to understand that they're painted a picture here, and they're not saying everything right now. So, of course, like, man, boy, I tell you, they'd take your money quick, man.
They don't even address where Pooh actually lives in Dallas. The alleged victim came to Dallas willingly, which, again, that's an element of kidnapping that's not there. All these different things about jurisdiction. At the bond hearing, they were like, well, if they used a cell phone to record this signing, then that's the commerce clause and it affects interstate commerce. The problem with that is there's specific case law that the cell phone would have to be used in furtherance of the kidnapping. So filming someone and then sending it to Bob Smith and saying, hey, if you don't pay me a ransom, here's the video of your guy. That's in furtherance of the crime. Filming someone allegedly signing a contract is not in furtherance of the crime. So they're going to have a lot of problem with jurisdiction. I know there's...
Is this guy really saying that? Gucci just made a song saying that you still signed to me anyway, right? Identifying what happened, and if there's a video of him signing a contract, right? Now, let's just make it make sense. If there's a video of him signing a contract, you're going to hear audio as well. You're going to hear the audio. Things is going to be said. So he can't just act like there's going to be a video of him signing something and nobody saying nothing. It's just going to be a quiet video. Like, come on, man. Like, make it make sense, man. This guy, Bradford Cohen, is tripping.
Scrambling to try and make sure to shore that up with jurisdiction. But the basic is they found no gun, so they can't say whether or not the gun was made in Texas. If the gun was made in Texas, it doesn't affect interstate commerce. They found no ammo. If the ammo was made in Texas, doesn't affect interstate commerce. The only phone that was used in any of this was this alleged recording, which no one has, and they can't say that affected the actual kidnapping. So they have a problem there. They have a problem going back and forth throughout this case with jurisdiction in terms of proving that the phone or something in interstate commerce was used in furtherance of the kidnapping. That's going to be a real problem for them, which they don't address. And all these complaints, all these indictments, they're very heavy on what they have because they want to make like, oh, we got him here, we got him here, we got him here. What they don't have is they have no guns, they have no ammo, they have no contract, they have no video inside the studio. They have no other witnesses besides only the alleged victims. There were 2 other witnesses in there. Those witnesses say, we didn't hear anything. We didn't see anything. No one told us anything. One of them's the owner of the studio. One of them, I think, is an intern from the studio. And this isn't a massive, big studio. There's a couple different recording studios, but these were the only guys recording there. So it wasn't like they were checking on other studios to see how everyone's doing. There's only one group there. So it's unusual that they didn't hear anything or see anything. The whole thing is weird. And like the fact that MM says to, walks towards the door with everyone and says, hey, are you guys really taking my watches? That doesn't sound like me, that someone that was almost going to get shot in the face then says, hey, by the way, are you really taking my watches? That sounds crazy to me.
So I would counter that as a counter argument.
Yes, counter it.
So the purported injuries on couple that with the idea of what we mentioned. If all of that digital data is true, it might place them at the location. But this is the part that we haven't talked about. Last part, I want to get your point on. It's the social media accounts. So authorities, what they did was they compared the descriptions of, let's say, Williams Jr. from the accounts of the alleged victims to an Instagram account at Pooh Shiesty. So allegedly, there you go, showing a match. This is who we described. This is what it is. But then they end up doing that for others. So they say Williams Sr., Wright, Waters, and how there are these photos of them together online, how they match allegedly state IDs with the accounts too. And for the suspects, Rogers and Glover, they allegedly matched the surveillance footage with social media posts of them allegedly possessing the things that were reportedly stolen, like a Rolex watch and a pendant. They're very, very specific items. So the argument would be very unlikely that they would have the exact same thing. And so they're basically, the argument is they're flaunting it after this alleged kidnapping robbery. And also the authorities looked at surveillance footage, saw what the suspects were wearing, and matched it to the descriptions of the clothes the suspects were wearing on their social media accounts. So it's the social media activity that authorities are using to tie in the identities of the suspects and what they allegedly had in their possession after the kidnapping and robbery.
We know that's
sure.
A lot.
So one thing is, and I thought this was very interesting, it looked like Gucci came out with the exact stuff that was allegedly stolen, saying like, here's my chain and here's something else. I think that he actually showed like some jewelry that was allegedly stolen and that it was still in his possession. That's the first unusual part. The second unusual part of that is the watches and things of that nature. All the government could say is it looked the same as the one that was taken.
I didn't see that. I mean, did y'all see that? I didn't see Gucci come out and say, here go my stuff. Yeah, where did they see that at? I didn't see Gucci say nothing like that. That must be something that I missed. You know, I didn't see Gucci say nothing as in to show people that he still got his jewelry.
This watch looks the same as the one that was taken. They can't say whether or not it is that watch. And in fact, on one of them, where they said, I think it was like a Rolex with a Jubilee band. I forgot the type of Rolex that it was, but they can't say that it is that Rolex. And in fact, that individual who had that watch has a receipt for purchasing that same Rolex. And in the next picture on his Instagram, it shows the box, the papers, and the receipt for the purchase of that Rolex. So there's a lot of things there that I think might be unusual. It doesn't have every single thing that was taken. I think there was a Rolex and some jewelry that was displayed in some Instagram pictures. And again, those aren't Instagram pictures from Pooh Shiesty. Those are Instagram pictures from other individuals that were allegedly involved.
Well, let me tell you something. First of all,
so if those are, you know, pictures of from other people that was involved, when they get presented with the evidence of where they went, the tracking, you don't think that they gonna say something? You think they just gonna take it by themselves and say, I got all this evidence against me and I came to do something for you and I'm gonna take the fall?
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being a sport to break down the evidence with me. You are an incredible lawyer, I just have to tell you. And I really appreciate you taking the time to break this down with me. I really thought it was a fascinating discussion. And we'll see. I mean, again, to be clear, they are all innocent until proven guilty. This is the government's version of events. This is the government's evidence. You're 100% right. They still have to meet their burden. We're in the beginning stages of this, and we will see. But listen, Bradford, you're the best. You're such a gem. Thank you so much for coming on to
Thanks for having me again.
To really address all this. I appreciate it.
Hey, listen, man. I wouldn't dare want my lawyer doing nothing like this. I can't even hold you. I wouldn't dare. I would not dare want my lawyer to be doing nothing like this. You know, you don't even know the facts. You don't have the discovery, but you just talking. Like, what is the purpose, though? What would be the purpose of an attorney to come talk like this? You know, I would never hire nobody like this. This is crazy. Yeah. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Hit the like button. subscribe to the channel. Go check out the merch, SBGBTV.com. If you haven't already checked out the merch. If you want us to promote anything for you, email me, sbgbtv@gmail.com. Shout out to all of y'all that rock with the channel. If you're a member of the channel, put a 1 in the chat. We can shout you out. I appreciate all of y'all that be rocking with the channel, man. Yeah. You know, how do y'all feel about that, though? Would y'all want your attorney to be talking about your case with your life on the line and you looking at a lengthy sentence? Would you want that? That shit's wild. You know what I'm saying? I know I wouldn't. I know I wouldn't. C. Brown. Ike. Dustin. Run the table. Man, I appreciate y'all rocking with the channel, man. Yeah, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, man. I wouldn't recommend this attorney to anybody. Like, hold up. Straight up. Michelle, I wouldn't recommend this attorney to nobody, man. Yeah. I appreciate y'all, man. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share this live, man. Trees, you know I appreciate all y'all. You already know, man. I appreciate y'all. Victim 1 and suspect 4. If you would like to become a member, it's only $3.99. It's pinned at the top of the chat. Yeah. I appreciate y'all, man. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You know, man, it's your boy Deezy. We going hard in the paint. And y'all know what it is, man. It's not about the setback. It's about the get back. Damn.
Came out the mud, now we map out the start. Hands on the wheel, got my life in the car. Up and down roads, they said ain't for me. Now I run routes like a wide body Jeep. Selling work out the trunk, I was freezing at lights. Eating chips for dinner, counting quarters at night. Now it's bags in the back, got them strapped to the seats. Every mile one prayer, one now police. Stop shower just to rinse off the pain. Then I double that flip, did it all again.